And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 147. Or is it number 148? 46, 45, 46, I think it's 47. Let's go with that. Maybe it's 48. Anywho, today the exciting conclusion and finale to our three-part series of the Columbia, Missouri collection, we're calling it. And we have, maybe you won't agree that this is the finale, but for me it certainly is. So let's get right into it. Okay, here we have a Ford Aerostar 1994 as is for parts, listed for $700 in, of course, Columbia, Missouri. Okay, so another $700 Aerostar. The last one, if you remember, was also $700. And so they've priced these equally. And when we see the description, I think that's like a fair valuation. Excuse me. Obviously, this one is gold and a shorty, and the last two were green and extended. If you remember, now I can go back and reference these. We had the previous one, the 96 four-wheel drive, and then we had the 95 recently registered. So it's funny, we had a 94, a 95, or a 94, a 95, and a 96. So that's, I guess noteworthy. Now, a couple things that jump out at me, which I'm wondering if this is actually indeed a 94. We have some mystery on our hands. However, before we get into all that, we should read the description or the about this vehicle or the details. So, condition: used, fair. We drove this Ford Aerostar to this location 15 years ago. The motor worked great and the transmission was great. The body, as you can see, is in bad condition. Broken windows, flat tires, deteriorated interior. Has about 120,000 miles only for parts! Exclamation point. I am posting 3 Ford Aerostars. If you buy all 3, you can get the lot at $2,000. Pickup only. Okay, so now that description probably sounded fairly similar to the last description, and that's because it basically is almost identical. Even the punctuation, if you look at the 120,000 miles, and then there's a period, and there's no space after that period where it says only for parts. Now, why is this notable? Well, because I think it says something really good about the seller. So it's basically the copy and pasted description, right? We drove this Ford Aerostar to this location 15 years ago. However, this one is we drove this four-wheel drive Ford Aerostar to this location 12 years ago. So they've actually taken, the base post here and modified it. Who knows which one they wrote first, but to add or change information, even though it's sort of like a form description. You see some Aerostars out there, some vehicles on Marketplace, and the people can't even be bothered to write a description, or they write something and they've taken a picture from their bedroom window and it's blurry and it's one picture. I mean, there's not a ton of pictures here, but these we get the gist by a couple pictures. But some people are so it's like they have no interest in even selling the vehicle, even though they're listing it, or they're don't ask me a million questions, or, there's just like a hostility, and like, you're trying to, the owner, the person sells the car, right? I mean, you have no chance of selling a vehicle if you can't sell yourself, like, as not a crazy person, or not a person who's like a pain in the neck to deal with, or this is so basic and it should be so self-evident, and yet there's so many people selling things, particularly on Marketplace, where it seems like they're just begging you not to message them and try to inquire. And then when they have like a very tempting thing for sale, it's sort of like almost a public disservice, because it's like, man, you're offering this thing. You have a lot of people that are interested in having this thing, buying this thing, and having it, enrich their life in as much as a consumer good can. And you're just dangling it in front of all of us, and yet you refuse to just operate in any, manner of decency or honesty. So you're just holding this thing hostage from the general public and terrorizing, the community with poor communication. So, it's a marketplace. I always say these videos are just as much about the Ford Aerostar as they are about sort of marketplace classifieds culture. And it's sad at the end of the day where, basic communication skills, and I don't mean, aptitude or, grammar, anything like that. Just like the ability to interface with another human being with sort of like honesty and respect and like a regard for, the fellow humanity is either difficult for some people or they have the ability and choose not to. Who's to say? It's not a judgment, but it is sort of a fascinating observation we can make by viewing, through the lens or through the funnel of the experience of, looking at things at the classifieds. I always said Craigslist was like the purest form of capitalism and also the best form of capitalism, because it's just like, I want something, you got something, I'm going to buy it. I want to get rid of something, you want something, I'm going to sell it. No middlemen, no, bureaucracy, maybe no taxes. It's like you buy a car and you write on the bill of sale, kind of like, yeah, like how many taxes do you want to pay on this vehicle? Like, all right, well, maybe the vehicle costs $8,000. Maybe we agree that, you paid $1,500 for it. And that's the human, that's like, people sort of like appreciating other people, that human connection, that's like that's the essence of this whole thing that we're going through. And so often it gets turned into, competition or hostility, whatever. Anyways, I'm waxing on. This is, I said in the first episode of this 3-part series, I was in need of some therapy. So I'm getting my therapy right now. So Janky do thank you to all of you for hearing me out while I talk about this beautiful 1994 Ford Aerostar, which may not be a 94, because here's the thing. So before I move on to that, the fact that this seller took the time to change 12 years, we drove this Aerostar to this location 12 years ago we drove this Aerostar to this location 15 years ago. Whether or not a $700 vehicle has been sitting for 12 or 15 years, that difference of 3 years is so negligible. And yet they went out of their way to be accurate about exactly how many years ago that vehicle was parked. That's what I appreciate about that post. And then furthermore, they said they changed the drivetrain to a 4-wheel drive Ford Aerostar as opposed to just Ford Aerostar. So they even went so far as, if say they wrote that post first, they deleted the 4-wheel drive part of it or added it, vice versa, just to be accurate in what they were saying. And I just appreciate that. So thank you, seller, for that, those details. You kind of have an idea of what you're getting. Now, okay, so I haven't even revealed the second picture on this listing, which is just a gold mine. I mean, look at this. We have some bricks here. I mean, just the door. Like, what is this? Is it like a window? Is it like a box fan, or is it just like a fake window? But it seems like whatever they put in there, maybe it's an air conditioner, maybe someone's even living out of here. And if it's an air conditioner, I guess I could see why there's this like immense quantity of like tape or adhesive on it, but it's like this grid pattern. It's just like, why, why is it, why was this much tape needed to secure whatever this is? And you have something like balled up here, that it's like taped over. Maybe there's some spray foam going on. I mean, if you like janky things, this is like, it doesn't get more jankier. And all that on a mismatched door, which looks fantastic. I mean, the mismatched door on the Aerostar, the body panels are, it's in these like neat little sections. So it's like, you have the Harlequin Volkswagen Golf. Like a Harlequin Aerostar would look so good because it does have these like perfect little sections you can break everything into. And there's no like you can see where the panel lines are. I feel like nowadays on cars, panel lines will just crisscross everywhere over the car and they don't really follow the body shape of the car. And in this, like, your panel line for the door is perfectly, two parallel lines to the wheel arch. You have this beautiful parallel line that's being created there, and you see that when you have a different color body panel that shows that off. Again, this is a sliding door, so of course it kind of has to, but the fact that it, follows up to your roof line here and then comes down here, this body panel line where the door is, then this whole quarter panel is one piece. And then similarly in the rear, this is sort of all one piece. So it's just, there's a simplicity and an elegance to it. Again, rockers are kind of totally shot. I'm surprised this door was replaced at all when it was removed. And of course there's a lot, there's two ways to look at this. Either when you buy these vehicles, you have to deal with a ton of garbage, or when you buy these vehicles, you get a ton of extra free stuff, You can look at it one of two ways. Now I think this looks, even though the angle of the dashboard here kind of looks similar in this picture to this picture. And I have to say, I hate to say it, but I think there might be some like mold growing on this dashboard, which obviously that's like an HVAC issue. It kind of looks similar here. I never noticed how similar these actually look. But looking at it from this angle, and you can see how flat this is, and I think I see like a control panel jutting out. I think that this may be earlier than 1994, and I say that also because you have your non-flush mounted headlights, and you have your grille, which is the modern sort of or newer 3-spoke grille, but you have your Ford logo in the center. So 89, 90, and 91 had this grille style. These headlights, I forget when they went flush, but I have a feeling that it was when they did their 1992 redesign. I think that was like a NHTA thing, like a government thing. Basically, they had to have flush mounted headlights for safety. So for all those reasons, and it does look like an older style dashboard, I think this vehicle is no older than 1991, or no newer than 1991. That's my guess. But, I could be wrong. That would be ironic if they're giving all this, fantastic information about the vehicle, and yet somehow they're actually not accurate about the model year. Again, maybe the non-flush headlights went as far as 94, and it's very easy to pop like, a non-period accurate grille in there. That's no problem. But the fact that it really does look like the older style dashboard to me, which, I believe was facelifted after 91. So that would be 92 through 97. Who's to say? But just a little Aerostar sleuthing. It's fun to do Aerostar sleuthing. But certainly this will be the thumbnail of this. That's just absolutely incredible, fantastic. The shadows, the light, it's just a great picture. The trees, looks like a fall or spring day there. You have this strange caution tape going on, and I don't know what's going on in this location that these Aerostars were driven into 12 and 15 years ago. Just amazing that, these were driving vehicles when they were, and then just parked. People just park cars. It's crazy. It's happened to me. My Buick hasn't moved in a while, so I get it. But hopefully it won't be 12 or 15 years before I'm listing it for sale, having never driven it again. Flat tires, as you see. But I love the gold. Gold's, it's funny. The green Aerostar I talked about with the two-tone. And green, I feel like, is definitely one of my favorite colors. And the gold Aerostar is really underrated with the silver bumpers and the especially with the tan interior, like the gold on tan combination, just like the all, khaki spec with this red door, of course. I really think a gold, I think, is one of the most underrated color vehicle colors anyways. Like a gold Ferrari is like rare and very cool. Obviously my Fiat X19 is gold. Well, maybe you don't know that, but I have a Fiat X19 that's gold. in the 90s, again with green, like gold was a really, I think, really popular color, and I think exuded a lot of like, you know, sophistication or, you know, luxury. And it's funny because nowadays, even some like 90s colors like teal has kind of come back, purple's come back a tiny bit, and tan, you have that like desert tan, but it's not like a metallic color. So I guess you do see tan, but you really don't see a lot of gold cars. It's not a popular car color currently, and that's a shame. You know, if any car will do it, it'll be the Subaru Crosstrek, because I've always wanted to make a video about this. But Subaru Crosstrek, I feel like every year they come out with like 3 or 4 new colors, and now there's like just a pantheon of that car comes in every single color, like colors like fire engine, not just like a burgundy red, but a fire engine red, which is very rare for cars to come in. It comes in like a sunshine yellow, which is very rare for cars to come in. Orange has gotten a little bit popular, but not really. It comes in an orange, which is very uncommon. Of course, you have your puke. There's like I think there's at least 2 different shades of like that puke green, that like almost neon puke green that for some reason has gotten very, very popular. Even the Toyota 4Runner even comes in like a puke green. Like that puke green color got so popular, which is very, I don't even dislike it on some cars. I think like the Kia Soul makes one. But it is strange to me that of all the colors, that one got very popular. You know, and then your silvers and onyxes, there's like probably just 3 or 4 different black, onyx, and gray varieties, and all your other Subaru colors. So it's just amazing how I really appreciate that the Crosstrek comes in so many different colors. And of course, you know, but I don't think they've done a gold yet, so maybe gold is the final frontier for the Crosstrek. Anywho, what can I say? I love talking about the Ford Aerostar. I love talking about cars generally, and you know, Year of the Aerostar is certainly an opportunity for me to do that. So I've so much, very, very much appreciate. I still haven't responded to comments. It's been a month since I released a video. Probably 3 months since I responded to a comment. We'll get to all that. There's just been so much going on. Once, you know, we get tax season coming up and all that. But, you know, we're here. We're still doing it. And anyone who's stuck around this long, God bless you, because, you know, we're just doing everything to fight against the algorithm and AI and everything that you're supposed to do when you're on YouTube, and yet somehow people still show up and watch these videos, which is, you know, quite inspiring to me. So thank you. I wonder what this little, like, sort of line here, it almost looks like this is on purpose, but some sort of fade maybe based on what was underneath it or something. This is not good. No bueno. I've rarely seen an Aerostar frame, you know, windshield frame that poorly rotted. That's actually easily the worst I've ever seen. You know, it happens on the Fiats and stuff, but the Aerostar, that's usually not that much of a weak point, so that's a little rough. But, you know, chop the roof off, chop the whole to make it like a, you know, there is an Aerostar that there's some race out there, Lemons or something, where it's just vehicles without windshields. They got to be totally like topless. Or maybe you can have a windshield. I can't remember. I think it's like not even a windshield. And there is someone out there, I think maybe actually in Missouri, that has like this sweet purple and silver two-tone. I would love to track them down and drive that one day. If you happen to stumble upon this, or you're in Missouri and you know the person who has that Aerostar, you know, reach out if you wouldn't mind. So there you go. Another episode of Year of the Aerostar here on JKAF. We've done it. We've completed the Columbia, Missouri collection. 3, you know, wonderful Ford Aerostars. This one being 850, this one being 700, and this one being 700. And the seller is posting 3 Ford Aerostars. If you buy all 3, you can get the lot at $2,000. So something to think about, you know. It's definitely something to think about. I'll be thinking about it. Okay, so this has been another episode of Year of the Aerostar here on Janky AF. Thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for hanging in there with old beef Janky. And we will have another episode coming for you very soon. And until then, Janky do thanky.